So we'll get started. I'll turn it over to Sid to introduce the panel and show you a couple slides. And then it is a Q&A session. So we have 30 minutes of Q&A, 45 minutes if we need it. So all the questions can be directed in the room. We'll pass the mic around and we'll bring in some questions from the virtual audience as well. So Sid, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Paulette. Hello and welcome everyone to this Ask the Expert session on building adaptive card-based loop components. My name is Sid and I'm the host for this session. I'm part of the engineering team at Microsoft that is working on building adaptive cards as loop components. Adaptive cards as loop components allows you to bring external application content and processes context into Teams, Outlook, and other Microsoft 365 apps. Today, we have some of our partners who will share their experience on how they built adaptive card-based loop components. And some of those experiences are going to public preview soon. As Paulette mentioned, this is a hybrid session and is going to be recorded and posted for on-demand viewing on public event website. By joining this session, you are consenting to be recorded. And I just lay how we would go ahead and do this session. So quickly, I'll introduce the panel. We have our developer partners from Zoho, SAP, and Priority Matrix that are with us. And then we'll start with a quick summary of adaptive cards as loop components. We'll have the panel talk about the different the experiences that they have with building adaptive cards-based loop components. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you are in the room, please raise your hand. We'll pass the mic to you so that we can answer your questions. If you're online, also, please do post your questions. We will make sure that we answer all the questions that are posted online as well. With that, I'm glad to introduce our partners who have joined us today to talk more about their experiences in developing adaptive card-based loop components. Jagdeesh, if you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah. First up, we have Zoho. Zoho offers 40+ apps across business functions and have deep presence in sales and services. Jagdeesh has joined us in person all the way from India. And Jagdeesh is on the DIS. Jagdeesh, if you could give us a wave.
Yeah.
Jagdeesh is going to represent Zoho and is going to be talking about how did Zoho start on the journey of adaptive card-based loop components, on building adaptive card-based loop components, and what value did they see. Next up, we have SAP. SAP is world's leading software in ERP space. We have Ullas joining us remotely. Ullas will be talking about how developers can enable adaptive card-based loop components in their apps. Ullas, if you could give us a wave so that there. And finally, we have Pablo from Priority Matrix. Pablo will talk about some guidelines to define adaptive card-based loop components and some of the best practices that they have discovered while they built this experience for Priority Matrix app. I thank all of our partners for being here and offering to share their learnings with all of us today. Luan and I think the last two on the slide there are from Microsoft engineering team. Luan was supposed to join in person, but unfortunately has taken ill and is unable to join us today. Before we go ahead and hear our partners talk about the developer journey, I would like to share a quick summary on adaptive card-based loop components and the problem it solves. As you all might know, the proliferation of enterprise applications is leading to a decline in end user productivity. According to a recent study by Harvard Business Review, a typical information worker toggles 1,200 times between different apps in a day, spending about 9% of his work year in this context switching. Any saving here would not just improve productivity, but also enhance the overall well-being. With Microsoft 365 extensibility platform, developer partners like all of you can enhance digital experiences of the enterprise applications that you have built by helping users to continue in the flow of their work and allowing them to discover, create, share, and act upon external application content from within Microsoft 365. Adaptive card as loop components is one key feature in this proposition, using which your users could embed, share, collaborate on external application content, whereby allowing them to complete the tasks in the flow of their work. Adaptive cards as loop components will go into developer preview by end of June this year, and we are very excited to see this capability being leveraged by partners like all of you to bring productivity gains to your users. This is a brief summary of adaptive cards as loop components. I think over the discussion, you will see how this capability has been leveraged across 3 scenarios that our partners will talk about. To start with, I would request Jagadeesh to talk about how app developers could start on this journey of using adaptive card based loop components, and what value did Zoho see in adopting adaptive card based loop components. Jagdish.
Yeah, thank you, Sid. Hello, everyone. Yeah, good morning. Today, developers are creating hub-specific applications to maintain their, to extend the Microsoft 365 apps. Either be it in Teams, Outlook, or in any of their hubs. This quickly leads to manageability issues where they have to maintain multiple apps and processes in multiple places. So by transforming your adaptive cards into loop components, users can build it once and use it anywhere across Microsoft 365 hubs. These loop components are atomic units of productivity which stay in sync. Either it is in a Teams chat or in an Outlook email. Users can quickly complete their tasks and business workflows right from their Microsoft hubs to where they prefer to collaborate with each other. They can also easily share content across hubs to easily set context and save their valuable time. At Zoho, we have built the loop component, adaptive card-based loop components for Zoho projects and Service Desk Plus Cloud. To make you better understand how these loop components work, I'll quote a use case of how we have built the loop components for Service Desk Plus Cloud. Yeah. Service Desk Plus Cloud is an ITSM tool. Here, let me show you. An IT admin at Zilker has raised an incident request regarding a service outage inside SDP tool, and the IT admin gets notified regarding it. He quickly copies the link from the browser and pastes it into his Outlook, into his Teams channel, where a group of technicians are working on it. And the technician who is assigned on this task, he can directly update the task inside the Teams channel, and then it will be instantly synchronized event into the SDP app. In the meanwhile, the CIO sends an email to the manager requesting an update regarding the status. So what he does is he just copies the link loop component from the chat and then pastes it into his email reply in Outlook. So with this, all the stakeholders of this incident are in sync with each other in any of the platform that they have been using. So these loop components. So with these loop components, the team at Zilker could easily share relevant information across the channels, and then they could easily address the incident. And thus improving the incident response time, reduce the service outage duration, and then improve the performance against the SLAs. Sorry. Yes. Here as well, if you see, the developers have built these components only once, and it will work across Microsoft 365 hubs. Developers need not build the hubs specific components for each of them. It is very satisfying to bring these loop components to our customers. Anyone who is looking to enhance the productivity of their customers for their enterprise applications should leverage the adaptive cards as loop components. To start building the adaptive card-based loop components, the first step is to identify the relevant use case where there can be where the business flows or productivity can be improved for your apps, and start building a search-based messaging extension. With this messaging extension, customers can easily search for your app business information right from the Microsoft Teams, and then share it and collaborate with the team members. The next step is to add link unfurling ability to your app. With this link unfurling ability, your app can transform link any of your app's link into a powerful business card or adaptive card, where they can share information and work collaboratively. Along with that, there are a lot of extensibility options that are available in your messaging, in your Outlook 365 app, actually. And here as well, you need to extend the Teams messaging extension to Outlook. Once you have built the messaging extension with these capabilities, what you have to do is you need to extend your messaging extension app to use the AC spec of 1.6 in the adaptive card payloads. Once to support actionability across Teams and Outlook. After that, you need to, your adaptive card need to be supporting the adaptive card based guidelines that they have published in the documentation, and then you have to add the URL to the card payload. By building these adaptive card based loop components, the value that you can see from your customers is like it will be like a reduced context switching between applications, multiple applications, and thus improving the response time and enhancing the efficiency of your customers' businesses. With minimal effort, there will be a huge return of investment, and you can see an improved customer satisfaction. Finally, actually, for Zoho, this enables us to seamlessly connect and tightly integrate our applications to Microsoft platforms, thus enhancing the user experience and minimizing the, maximizing the product's solutions, potential of a solution. Thank you. Over to you, Sid.
Thanks, Jagdeesh. I hope you guys can hear me. I had some glitch on my end. Yeah, thank you.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry, somehow the demo gods are not pleased. Give me a moment here. Thank you, Jagdeesh. SAP and Microsoft are working very closely to bring adaptive cards as loop components for SAP S/4HANA Cloud through their Fiori framework. I would request Ullas to talk about how did they go about enabling adaptive cards as loop component in their apps. Ullas, if you could take over.
Thanks, Sid. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So what's on the screen right now is an SAP credit check app. It's a browser app. Credit checks are a key part of most sales. So companies would like to know that customers are actually able to pay. So this process involves a lot of collaboration across organizations like sales and finance. And it's critical to have a single view of up-to-date information. SAP is usually the system of record and supports complex business flows. Let's see what we can do to take one scenario, approve and reject in this case, and extract information required to make a quick business decision and show what's required as a loop component in a Teams chat. Next screen, please. Next slide. We'll be using the Teams toolkit here. This is a Visual Studio Code extension. There are other sessions that dive deep into the Teams toolkit. You should look at it if you're interested. And for those of us who live in the terminal, there's the Teams FX CLI. So here we'll be using the Teams toolkit, and we're going to create a new Teams application and use the message extension template. Next slide. Once the project is created, a new Visual Studio Code window is open with your new project. you will see a bunch of files and folders already created. This folder structure is nicely documented. You can look it up if you're interested. In essence, a message extension is a web server that the bot framework on Azure talks to using the bot protocol. We'll be using the bot framework SDK, which makes working on this really easy and takes care of the low-level details. Next slide. We're going to dive in and create an adaptive card-based loop component. For those of us who don't know what an adaptive card is, it's a customizable card that can contain any combination of text, input, buttons, pictures, even speech. For an adaptive card to be treated as a loop component, you have to make sure that you need to choose a version of 1.6 and above, and you give it a metadata web URL property. So each instance of a loop component will have this unique URL. So once we do this, we're going to grab the fields we need to make a quick approve and reject decision. We'll add approve and reject actions. And then next slide. So the way to surface a loop component in a Teams chat is via link unfurling. So a user will paste or enter a URL into a Teams chat, and this particular code here will be called, and we will respond with an adaptive card-based loop component. So the other code snippet you see on the screen is a list of domains. So this goes in your app manifest. So when a link is pasted and the link matches any of these domains, the bot framework will call this particular code, which is in the Teams activity handler. And this is pretty much all it takes to surface a loop component. Next slide. So loop components have live data, they support actionability, and this particular piece of code is how you handle actions. So when a user performs an action, clicks a button, clicks on a link, the bot framework will grab the context, any information on the loop component instance, and make a call to this event handler. And this event handler can then respond with the updated data, error message, whatever is appropriate. So at this point, we are ready to run. And again, the Teams toolkit makes this really easy. It creates VS Code run configs, and running that, it will do a bunch of prerequisite checks, like making sure you logged into your M365 account, your tenant has sideloading enabled, then it starts a tunnel, it packages your app, it registers your app on Azure, it uploads your app package to Teams, starts your server, and connects your tunnel to the server. And once you're happy, it also creates good defaults so that you can provision and deploy your message extension in Azure. Next slide. Going back to the screen I started with, once you have all your ducks lined up in a row, next. Next slide, please. So the user can grab a deep link to the request and paste it in a Teams conversation, and up pops a loop component. So what you see here is live data from an SAP system. It is embedded in the chat, and users can take actions right then and there. Remember the web URL I mentioned? So that can be copied by clicking on the copy button on the right-hand top corner of the loop component. And then the user should be able to paste it in an Outlook email, for example, and they'll have the same live data and actionability there. So this helps make collaboration really easy, and any actions taken here will update the data in the SAP backend. Thank you.
Thanks, Siddharth, for that detailed talkthrough. Adaptive cards are associated with leap properties, as in they are live, embeddable, and portable, like any other loop component. I would request Pablo to talk about some of the guidelines they followed so that they could honor these properties and share some of the best practices that they learned over the process of building such a loop component. Over to you, Pablo.
Hey everybody, this is Pablo Diaz. I'm co-creator, co-founder of Priority Metrics, an email and project management solution that's one of the most deeply integrated platforms into especially Microsoft Teams. When we learn about loop components, we realize that they're a perfect tool to serve our mission, which is keep people focused on high impact work. We want to reduce context switching. We want to make sure people stay where they already are without having to switch apps constantly, like we were discussing at the top of the presentation. The 4 properties that enable this follow the LEAP acronym, which stands for live, embeddable, actionable, and portable. What that means in the context of priority metrics, to make it less abstract, is the following. So live means that whenever you get an actionable card-based loop component, it's always showing you the latest live, up-to-date information. Embeddable means that a loop component works in every supported hub in a similar way. That could be Microsoft Teams, Outlook, and so on. Actionable indicates that a loop component does not only show you information, but it also lets you interact with information right there. And portable means that you can copy and paste a loop component and it should work across hubs transparently. So again, in the context of priority metrics, we can see this scenario where someone may have received a card with a loop component about a task that just became overdue. They can copy that, paste it in an Outlook message, and send it to someone someone who might be in charge of that task or who might need to be involved. How that works, if we can go into detail in the next slide, please. Following that scenario, we want to present a design principle that we follow at Priority Metrics, which is we show users all the information that they need to complete a task, but nothing more. Here we see 4 variants of the same card. On the left side, it's a card representing a task that someone sent to somebody else in the team, contacting prospective bidders for some contract. We can see that there's a title, there's some notes, there's a person responsible for the task, and so on. If someone wants to send a comment or a chat message to that task, they can click on the reply button, and then that would unfold the chat box where they can send a message. Or if the task has a due date, which is an optional field, then we show the due date and due time information. Or if the notes, for example, are too long, they're longer than the 2 lines that we show by default, there's an option to expand that and either view the notes in completion or to edit them right without leaving the loop component. So how does that work? Let's go to the next slide to see this in detail. First, my recommendation is that you go to the Adaptive Cards Designer tool, which is really practical, really easy to use. It's the visual tool that you can use to visually compose your card for your loop component. And then you take that JSON, bring it to your code, and then you start playing with it to make some of the elements dynamic. So on the right side, we mentioned that some elements might be hidden or unfolded. The way this works is every possible element that you want a user to interact with has to be present in the card, but you toggle it on and off. You see the first indicator on the right side is a field labeled is visible. So that indicates that we only show the due date fields if there's a due date. Below we can see we can show how we use a label field with some emoji for some pizzazz to indicate that some fields are overdue or not. And again, that's completely controlled by code. And of course, the due date is the value that we present at the bottom. Now, as it is right now, the card is presenting the due date field hidden. So in the next slide, we will see how this works. Next slide, there you go. So the way we present this, on the bottom left, we can see 2 versions of the same card. If the user wants to unfold the due date block. They can click on that set due date label, which has an action. It has a toggle visibility action. When that is triggered, that, as you can expect, toggles the visibility flag for the target elements, which are the date input, the open toggle date, and so on. So this is just an example of folding and unfolding elements in your card. But if the interaction gets a little too complicated for what you can show with this model, in the next slide we will see the option to show. Next slide, please. To use the stage view feature, which is a way to show a pop-up with essentially your full web app embedded inside the hub. So in this case, let's say someone receives a loop component about a card and they want to see the history of comments that were made to this task. That's way too much information for the card, for the loop component. So we give the option to view item, and that opens that pop-up view on the right side, when you can see basically whatever you think is reasonable for your users at the moment. So that's at a very high level how interaction with the loop component works, and some high level recommendations. I want to, in my last slide, go over some high level advice as to how to proceed. We've been with the loop component program from the beginning, so we learn a lot by trial and error. And this is roughly what I recommend, which is you start with something minimally useful for your users, instead of having a grand design and then pushing it forward with a lot of pain. Find something minimal, small, that's useful. For example, in our case, I was showing a due date when some task was overdue. Run it through the whole process, make sure you go through the review, publish it, and then once you have a beachhead, iterate, build upon that. You will find that you will learn a lot along that process that will be useful when you make a much more complex loop component. Next, there's a lot of UI elements that are available for your loop card design, but sometimes you have to get creative. And two things that we found are useful is using emoji and also ASCII art. You saw that, for example, that we have a clock to indicate that a task is overdue, or a progress bar completely made with ASCII art. Also, this should go without saying, but test every possible variant and combination of hub, operating system, and form factor. You have to think that even though there's a lot of consistency between hubs, there are different implementations, and sometimes a small change that is innocuous on one platform might break your rendering on iOS, for example. Again, this is improving over time, but of course, don't trust the documentation, but verify. And finally, embrace the review process. The folks at the review system, they're really helpful at coming up with not only problems that you didn't detect, but also suggestions and recommendations for the UX that let you know what users are expecting from an app like yours. So don't fight it and just embrace it, and you'll be better off for that. That's that for me. Back to you.
So Sid, should we open it up for questions? Lots of hearts. Yeah. So in the room, if you have questions, you're on mute, I think, Sid.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm struggling with Teams today. Yes, I just wanted to thank Jagadeesh, Ullas, and Pablo for sharing their perspectives and providing feedback to our developer community. We should open for questions. I think there are quite a few questions already on the chat, and then I see some of them being answered by Ullas. If there are any questions in the room, we might take.
If you have questions in the room, you can just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic over to you. And then Sid, maybe you can get a couple questions online to bring out.
Sure. So
For the link unfurling functionality, it showed in the manifest declaring specific domains that you want your card to handle. Is there a verification step to confirm ownership of those domains?
Probably.
So if I may take that.
Yeah.
I think when you submit your app, when you submit your manifest and the app details to the verification team goes through that. So there'll be that's one of the steps that Pablo was also talking about. So the verification process, there will be some to and fro. I think as part of that, there is that kind of validation that gets done.
Great. There was a question in the chat from our virtual audience for SAP. Sid, if you want to bring that up.
I think there was a question on how SAP is managing the auth and how is the security on the card being handled, as in is the right content being shown to the right with the person with the right kind of access privileges. Ullas, do you want to take that up?
It's a complicated answer, but very shortly, it's using principal propagation from Azure Active Directory to SAP IaaS. So yes, we do ensure that the right people with the right authorization see the right data.
Right, just to add to that, right, what Ullas was saying, right, I mean, in general, adaptive cards have this auto refresh property. So whenever you open the email or you look at the particular adaptive card on Teams or any other hub, so the adaptive card always tries to get the latest content or latest status. When it does that, it looks at your access level privileges, and the app can actually provide only information that is meaningful for your eyes. For example, I might be having a card where I just have view permissions, but you might have access and approve permissions on that. So the view of the card would be different. However, it is the same URL that shows different views.
And we have a question in the room.
Hi. When I use, I mean, this could be just my ignorance, but if I use PowerFX expressions within the adaptive card, it does not. It's not a dual. I mean, you can embed the power expression, but then I can't retrieve the same JSON, a payload. Is that just something I'm doing wrong, or is that something that in the context of PVA, that's where I was going back and forth. It's not bidirectional.
I mean, do you want to templatize your card? Is that why you're using power expressions, or?
Yes,
I'm just trying to understand.
It basically is dynamically rendered at the Power Virtual Agent. It gets the information back from an AI model and then renders it as an adaptive card. That's where I embed my responses from the user onto the card using power expressions. But if I then have to modify it, I cannot. I mean, I lose the design. I lose the JSON schema.
Probably it'll need a deeper inspection, but what I can share is that adaptive cards do support templatizations. You can provide dynamic data to that, but in the context of PVA, I think we'll need to check that a little bit more. Please do write to us, and then we'll make sure that we have some good answer for you there.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Thank you.
He said thank you.
Okay.
And we also have a question in the chat. Will there be more customization available in the future with adaptive cards, such as more rigorous approach on enhancing the UI of cards, adding more colors, font types, etc.?
Yes, so adaptive card schema is being constantly improved, and some of the features that we are adding is one of the features that you have seen in the SAP demonstration that Ullas showed was charts. We do not have that live right now, but we are adding that very soon. So there is a pipeline of functionality that is being added to adaptive cards. You can look at that in adaptivecards.io/roadmap. And then anything that gets added there would be available for loop components as well.
And this is a good one, actually, because we do have so many partners on our panel today. Do you have to be a Microsoft partner, or can they build their own adaptive cards for their company?
Absolutely. I think adaptive cards, the thing that we are, the way we are different, a little bit different than the general loop components is that this is all third-party content housed in third-party backends like SAP's approvals and all are actually in SAP S/4HANA Cloud. Zohos are in Zoho's cloud. So you do not need to be building these from Microsoft. These are to be built from, by third parties.
And then one last one, and then I'll open it up to the room. Nikhil Arun asks, can this be integrated with Dynamics 365 workflows?
Yeah, so Dynamics team is actually working on their messaging extension. So I think it's being called Viva Sales now. So they're working on their messaging extensions, and we will start seeing Dynamics leads also start getting transformed into such adaptive cards.
Okay, any questions from the room? We do have more. It seems like the online attendees are asking questions.
So I do see there was a question, is auto invoke action still Outlook specific? So we do have, auto invoke action is something specific to a particular product in Outlook called actionable messages. But with the latest adaptive card spec, you have refresh. I see that somebody has answered that. Thank you. I think there is a refresh property which does exactly same what auto invoke does, but this refresh property works across Microsoft 365. Auto invoke action was specific to Outlook. You're right there.
And then Ulias, there's a question for you in the window. I'm not sure if I'm reading this right, but how does save application called from adaptive cards and confirmation from SAP?
Was that for me?
Yes.
I think I answered this. So we just invoke the auditor services in the SAP S/4HANA Cloud to perform all the actions. So the message extension just delegates. I don't know if that answers the question.
And then Armin has a question about how can I access SAP from a loop-based adaptive card?
I think if yeah, Ullas, please go ahead.
For it. No, I was going to say principal propagation again, but go for it.
Yeah, in terms of in terms of authentication, it's principal propagation. But I think is your question more in terms of authentication or in terms of, how does that work? How is the SAP content being represented? Was it on chat?
It was on chat.
Oh, okay. But yes, if your question was on authentication, I think it's principal propagation.
Okay, I think those are all the questions we have. So we'll stay here. The speakers will be on for 15 more minutes if anyone has additional questions. Otherwise, Sid, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for attending. I think in the last slide, we do have email ID, please do write to us. Very excited to know what scenario are you envisioning and how we can help you there. If there are questions still, probably we can hang out for a little bit longer to answer.
Hello. Just a question of if you need, we talked about authentication a little bit. If you need to connect to like an external source with like OpenID Connect authentication flow, is that something that's supported out of the box with the cards, or is there?
Yeah, so yes, it's supported. So I mean, you should look at adaptive card spec 1.4 onwards, and so the way we do that is we use the. I mean, you can use any external authentication, and in terms of the user experience, you would see a sign-in prompt, and the sign-in prompt would actually federate that sign-in to the external authentication that you want to do.
Okay. Second question, you mentioned at the end something about a preview of charts. What kind of charts are available in this?
So I think, yeah. Charting capability in adaptive card doesn't exist today, but it's there in the roadmap is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
One of the use cases is what Ullas did illustrate in the scenario that SAP is building.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I had another question along with the chart.
Yeah, there they can see you.
Okay.
Oh, right behind the desk.
Oh, right here? Oh, so that's the camera. Okay. Hi, guys. So
hey,
one of the things we have sometimes in the adaptive card is custom branding. And I know when we moved from the hero card to adaptive, that's excellent move already. But is there like, I don't know if somebody had mentioned it, but is there like a CSS type of approach where we can inject our own custom branding look?
So you're talking about theming the adaptive card so that your card stands out and probably your, yeah, I do understand that there is general theming support, but I don't think all the hosts adhere that very well today. So that's also a feedback that we are working on. So we will take that and then we will, I mean, that's there in the roadmap, but yes, this question, we have been asked this question many times.
And currently, I mean, I think one of the ways I'm implementing charts, or even like if I need to show a map in the adaptive card, I basically do the processing elsewhere and then return that as an image that is then shown in the adaptive card. Am I on the right track that way for now? Is that's the hack?
I think, yeah, that's the hack. I think even we are advising our partners to employ until we have the real charting capability on adaptive cards.
Thank you, sir. This was very good. Thank you.